Don Lemon. Don Lemon is very, very upset about the biggest story. This is the longest we haven't talked about it in any show in probably 2 weeks. The Rittenhouse story, where all of the evidence is on the side of Kyle Rittenhouse, that young man in Kenosha, Wisconsin, who shot the Antifa people who were trying to murder him. All of the evidence is on his side. None of the evidence is on the prosecution's side. It seems like the case is falling apart before our very eyes. And Don Lemon, he's really upset about that. He wants to know what would happen if Kyle Rittenhouse were a black kid.
Just want to leave people with a picture here.
Are you going?
Imagine if Kyle Rittenhouse was an 18 or 17-year-old black kid.
Well, that's a different issue. What
with a gun.
That? Talk about that.
Right. How would people feel? How would the judge treat him? Well, how would pundits think about this case? Or what about the people on the right who are making Kyle Rittenhouse out to be a choir boy because he went across state lines, inserted himself into a situation that he had nothing to do with, was carrying a gun that he wasn't supposed to carry because he was too young. It was illegal for him to carry that gun. And he wanted to do it because he was cool. If a black kid did that, killed 2 people and injured another person, how would America feel about that?
First of all, the hypothetical. What would happen if a young black man, let's say a young black man in these very riots that Kyle Rittenhouse went to, what would happen if he had a gun or some weapon and were committing violence? What would happen then? We know what would happen then. They'd get off the hook. That's what would happen. That's what's been happening for most of the people that were involved in the BLM riots last year. You saw it especially in the Bronx and in Manhattan. People pleading down, having much more serious charges now, just be minor trespassing or some lower charge. What would happen if a young black man were looting or robbing or mugging people or killing people during the BLM riots? What would happen? Nothing would happen. They'd face very lenient prosecution. And they would get cover from the media who were saying they were involved in anti-racist protests, which is not what happened. But let's take this further. Let's not just compare things that share some similarities. Let's say that Kyle Rittenhouse himself were a black guy. So not a young black man showing up to the BLM side and protesting for BLM. Not a young man showing up and joining Antifa, but a young black man showing up to his place of business with an AR-15. He's clearly more conservative. He's there, a young black man who shoots some Antifa people who are trying to attack him. How would the right react? The right would love that guy. The right would defend that guy every bit as much as they are Kyle Rittenhouse. And we all know it. 1, because the evidence would be on his side. But 2, because the guy would be on our side, right? Right? Of course, conservatives love black people who support conservatives. I thought the left was just attacking us for that. That we like Thomas Sowell too much, or we like Candace Owens too much, or we like this woman who won in Virginia, the lieutenant governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears. Remember, there were all these headlines. White supremacists always love black conservatives. Oh yeah, so what would happen if the Kyle Rittenhouse case, if that were a young black guy? Well, all those conservatives who the left says are white supremacist, evil, they would, by their own logic, they would support him, right? Right. Now, it just so happens all the evidence would be on his side too, and it just so happens that the right-wingers are not white supremacist, evil, whatever nonsense. But I just think even on the point Don Lemon's making, he's not right. Because the thing that matters here is substance as well as form. Okay? For the left, it's just about form, I guess. It's just about how someone looks, the kind of superficial similarity. What about the substance? What are these guys fighting for? It's a big difference. If a guy shows up to a BLM rally or an Antifa rally with a gun and starts aggressing on people, I'm going to have a very different view of him than if someone shows up to that same rally on the side of the business owners, on the side of the civilians, on the side of the conservatives, and is not aggressing, but actually just defending himself. I guess in both cases, they both look like a guy with a gun. But what they are there doing is very, very different. I'm glad you liked that clip. Stop what you're doing, ring the bell, and subscribe. We appreciate that. But even more importantly, head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you get your audio podcasts. Subscribe. Type in The Michael Knowles Show. Subscribe. Leave a 5-star review if you wouldn't mind it. We'll see you next time.